This is The Extra Point, an Arizona's Family Originals podcast, sponsored by your Phoenix Suns.
Well, the sun came up here today at the Cardinals team facility in Tempe following their loss to finish the season to the Los Angeles Rams, but it was a dark day, Black Monday, where changes made all over the National Football League, and one of them right here at the Cardinals Dignity Health headquarters. Mark McClune, Julia Lopez, Nick King here to talk about it on our rapid Redbird reaction to the Cardinal coaching change. Jonathan Gannon, no longer the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. The two of you were inside for the news conference today. I was out here going live on the noon show, listening to most of it. But I guess, Nick, let's start with you. Your rapid reaction to this as the Cardinals make a change.
Well, one, I think Michael Bidwell's pretty good at playing things close to the vest because it was not the consensus from your national insiders, from anyone talking about the Cardinals, that it was a foregone conclusion that Jonathan Gannon was going to be fired. And it was like, well, how could he not be? They lost 14 of their last 15 games to end the season. It was 9 straight. They gave up 37 or more points 6 of the last 8 games, I think it was. And ultimately, yes, it was too much. Michael Bidwell said that. I think he repeated wins and losses like 11 times in a 25-minute news conference, and they speak loudly. And he felt like even the end of last season, going into this season, that things were going in the wrong direction, and he knows that the fan base is frustrated, and Michael Bidwell was too.
Yeah, Julia, you were here early posting up inside the Cardinal locker room. What was the player sentiment before we knew the news today? What was sort of the vibe as the season came to a conclusion? The most probably, I think this is the most disappointing season in Arizona Cardinals history since they moved here, based on the fact that they were eliminated from playoff contention the earliest they ever have.
Well, I will say sometimes on Black Monday, players aren't in the locker room. They don't want to face the media. They don't want to talk to you, and usually it's a ghost town in there. But we were able to talk to 6 or 7 guys, and they seemed like ready to go into the offseason, optimistic. I really do think that they have the guys in this locker room to win games. They kept repeating that, and they thought that Gannon was the guy for the job. Like, they completely supported him. You could just tell every single person that we asked if JG was the guy for the job, they said yes. Like, we believe in him. We believe in him. And we know that the players loved him. So that's going to be very interesting to see what head coach is brought into this and if they're going to buy in to him.
Well, it definitely seemed down the stretch like Jonathan Gannon could sense this was coming with some of his comments, some of his body language. I go back to last season, and there was a game where things kind of fell apart late, and he said, it can't look like that. And I'm stuck with that because I think he knows it can't look like it did this year. 3-14. And on the field, he's responsible for that. Monty Ossenfort responsible for picking the players, and he probably had to make the case to keep his job and said, hey, I gave you 2 first-round picks in Darius Washington and Darius Robinson and Marvin Harrison Jr., who have not developed. Now, there's injury reasons why, but Michael Bidwell was pretty, as you talked about, pretty consistent about the reasons why this decision was made today.
It was drilled down question-wise to him, like, why was this a coaching issue and not a roster construction issue, with the constructor of the roster, Monty Ossenfort, sitting right next to Michael Bidwell? Like, why was this your coach's problem and not the GM's problem when you have all these injuries? Was the roster that Jonathan Gannon had at his disposal good enough to win? And I think that Michael sidestepped that pretty well for most of the press conference, and just coming back to wins and losses. They're the most important thing in this league. They are the bottom line in this league. And Monty was asked a lot of questions, too, about the roster. Why do you feel like you've done a good enough job here? And I felt like he kept coming back to the youth that they have. And the more that he kind of led on, and when they were asked about what is the kind of coach that you're looking for, I feel like Monty didn't feel like Jonathan Gannon and this coaching staff developed the young guys well enough. Monty was like, yeah, understandably, none of these guys have made a Pro Bowl yet that we've drafted in the last 3 years. But we've turned over this roster. There's a young core here, a lot of guys who played. Now, I would say the opposite is like, okay, you got a lot of young guys that played. Are they good enough to play? You're giving up 36 points a game down the stretch. You got hammered. You lost 9 straight games. But that was kind of Monty's side of it. We've got guys. So I feel like he felt like the coaching staff didn't develop those young guys.
But when you look at some of the individual young guys, and in the second year, like Darius Robinson, this is his 1.5 years of playing because he missed pretty much all of last year. But for him to get out there, I saw such a huge jump from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. He was on pretty much like every play getting out there. So I really do think that there was a good development with some of these players, and especially even throwing in Cody Simon into that Mike position when Mac Wilson Sr. went down with that injury. That is a huge role for a rookie to handle that job.
But if you compare it to, say, a Jacksonville, which is going to the playoffs, the Chicago Bears going to the playoffs, and the rest of the NFC West, the Cardinals seem light years away from the development that those teams have had, and that, you know, you've got a new coach in Seattle, you got a new coach in Chicago, you got a new coach in Jacksonville, and you can't wait around. And I think 3 years they looked at this, and going back to what Michael Bidwell said, wins, losses, it's the National Football League. It stands for not for long. People have said that for years, and that's really what this came down to, and that's at least their message going forward. Monty Austin-Fort, I would say, doesn't have a ton of room for error here going forward.
And Michael pointed out multiple times what you're talking about with those first and second year head coaches that have already taken teams to the playoffs, won their division in their first year, in the case of Jacksonville and Chicago, Ben Johnson and Liam Cohen. And Michael said, we believe we can be the next one in that story, and we don't expect a 2-year turnaround. We expect that this can happen in 1 year with the right guy because of what they feel like is a competent roster.
Well, and okay, so of all the Michael Bidwell sound bites today, what's the one that sticks with you for us to play right now?
I think it was probably just when he was asked about, do you feel the fans' frustration right now? And he started that by saying, yes, I am just as frustrated.
I know our fans are frustrated. I am more frustrated. I know Monty is more frustrated. This is something, and so is JG. Every one of those coaches and players. We all expected more. But I also, when I look at it, some of the changes that were made with other teams just a year or 2 years ago, those teams with new coaches from a year or two ago are now in the playoffs playing this weekend. I know we can turn it around, and I'm looking forward to getting going with this search, because it's going to be a great opportunity for us to be that next story where we flip it around.
And I think we can all feel the frustration. I think we started this whole journey with the Cardinals, covering the Cardinals in July, and you want your football team to do well, and there's nothing quite like an NFL playoff run. I wish that the two of you could experience more of it, because it's magical, and it's a bit depressing for those of us who love football, when the season comes to an end and you have to wait until next year and you don't really know what to expect. And I don't love mock drafts,
Right?
But it's simple. I mean, you have a short window. You have to get this thing pointed in the right direction. You have to sell tickets, because I think there is a lot of apathy with the fan base right now. I had an email in my inbox this morning. People said, we're done paying for this.
So I was texting with my brothers last night from the Suns game, and it was they're talking about the Steelers and the Ravens and how great that game was, and I was like, yeah, it's basketball season in Arizona, boys, which stinks because nothing's better than the NFL playoffs. But the Suns are actually a prime example of 6 to 8 months ago, we were like, this fan base is apathetic. They're not interested in this team. They're bummed out by what the last 2 seasons were. And all of a sudden, like, new head coach, couple of new players, and it's a completely different story.
All right, so who are those Colin Gillespie's, Jordan Goodwins? I'll throw Royce O'Neal in there. Help me out.
Who's Jordan Ott?
Right.
Mark Williams, did you already say him?
Well, yeah, who would have thought the guy that the Lakers trade was rescinded for with a bad knee would be such a big piece? So it seems like that these players have NFL measurables. They're in the league for a reason, and the next coach, the requirement is going to be to come in and do exactly what Jordan Ott has done with the Phoenix Suns. Yeah,
because it can be done. And this is not even a recent trend in the NFL. This is historically, teams go from worst to first. Every single year you see it, but especially right now. And maybe there is talent here. Like those first 7 games of the season, the Cardinals won 2. They lost the next 5 by 13 points, and that was something that they pointed at too, Monty and Michael today, was before the injuries hit, we were in games and we didn't close them. And I think that's kind of when things started to fall apart for Jonathan Gannon, and then it was just untenable the way the season ended.
I kind of want to bring out my candy canes again from 2 podcasts ago to show my illustration of why I think they should go after Joe Burrow and mortgage the farm for him, because I think if you put Marvin Harrison Jr. and Michael Wilson as your receivers, Michael Wilson, I mean, he's going to get paid like a number 1 receiver. And if Marvin Harrison Jr. is your number 2 receiver, I think you're in a great spot there. I think Trey McBride is playing like a Hall of Fame tight end.
Yeah, best in the league.
Right, and just fun and just loud. And, I mean, if your kids are around, maybe don't have the television up at the highest volume. But I do think if you brought in a quarterback that I think any quarterback who's looking to change addresses would be excited about coming out here if they move on from Kyler Murray. But the other question is Jacoby Brissett that guy? And you draft your next quarterback, groom him a little bit, and maybe don't reach if it's not there.
Okay, so what did you think about the answers when Monty Ossenfort was asked about Kyler Murray today?
It was a little wishy-washy. Like, he didn't address it head on. Like,
right.
I think it's very much up in the air whether he's going to come back or not.
And I think because it was so wishy-washy, that tells me, like, they've moved on. And they can't say that explicitly because they've got to try to move him. And listen, that's what we've all thought for months now, that they've moved on.
And $36 million guaranteed next year.
But Monty and Michael had a chance to say, if they wanted to, we're still committed to Kyler, and that is not what they said.
Well, and you know, there are rules. He's technically still an employee here, and I don't think they want to trash the guy on the way out the door because, you know, he gave it his best effort. He got hurt. It didn't work out here. He's a former number 1 pick, and somebody's going to want him, and you don't want to devalue an asset that you're trying to trade. Now, I think the most likely scenario is he gets cut and signs somewhere else, and if he comes back to town here next year, we're going to have a very, very sexy storyline. But if you look at that answer, Monty Ossenfort named all of his quarterbacks. Well, Kyler, Jacoby, Keaton, all under contract. That's sort of the way of, you know, we're just going to name everybody and kind of, you know, there will be a time and place for those discussions. All options are on the table. We're going to do what's in the best interest of the team. Simply put, is it in the best interest of the team, in y'all's opinion, your opinion, sorry, the Texas came out there, to move on from Kyler Murray?
I'll start first. But I don't know, just the amount of excitement that I saw in the locker room when Jacoby Brissett became starter was night and day. I feel like guys were so excited to be out there. Michael Wilson saw the ball, and we got to see what type of receiver that he actually is and the talent that he brings. And Jacoby was just able to get so many different targets involved, and I really do think that Jacoby did a really good job with what he had, especially with the O-line that was just completely different every week. I feel like it was completely decimated, that O-line. But I really do. I don't know. I think Kyler's gone. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you that players, you did hear guys talk about the way that he fights in the pocket makes you want to fight. Offensive linemen talking about that. They viewed playing for Jacoby a little bit different than when Kyler was taking snaps. I don't think Jacoby's the guy next year. I don't think you have anyone excited about season tickets if you're going into the next season with him as your starter. As much as I like Jacoby, and I thought it was in a lot of ways an upgrade, it just wasn't good enough in the fourth quarter because they were in games plenty of times with him as the quarterback, and they didn't get it done in fourth quarters. There were too many 3-and-outs. But no, I don't think you can possibly run it back with Kyler. Like, I don't think he would want to. Like, why would he? They moved on from him. They
go through all these
benched
questions.
him.
I mean, that we've been asking since July. Is this a make or break season for you? Yeah,
You could even go back to when he signed the contract several years ago and the homework clause. Like, he can't possibly have really ever felt wanted here, other than when Monty and JG first got here, and they flew to Oklahoma for his statue unveiling, and they did pour into him when those guys first got here. But by and large, I don't think Kyler could possibly feel like he's ever been at home here or like a valued member of the organization.
But we didn't really get to see like the leadership aspect of him. As a quarterback, you want to see him like juicing your guys up and like giving them high fives and like just like talking to them like on the sideline once you come off. Like, you want to continue to get better, and I didn't see that with Kyler.
Right. Well, I do. I'm very interested to see where Kyler Murray lands if it's not here. I'm interested to see if Jacoby Brissett isn't here, if those two go head-to-head at some point. Maybe Drew Petzing's calling plays somewhere else, what that looks like. There's a lot of storylines around the league. I think there are multiple coaches on the staff, and start with Jonathan Gannon. I know we have a lot of respect for him. I know he was very kind to us. I think he's a good man. It's just it's kind of the way of the NFL, and what makes today. I mean, it's difficult because you don't want to see people lose their jobs, and on a personal level, you're like, I'm glad that this doesn't happen in the media industry if something goes wrong.
I love JG, flat out. Like, he was great. I always enjoyed talking to him, and he did change the culture here. Like, that can't be lost. It's in a better place than when Cliff Kingsbury left a couple of years ago.
Night and day.
Yeah. And going back to what you talked about, like, not just today and yesterday were guys kind of singing GG's praises. It was throughout the season. I think back to, I don't remember where you were on the road when Darius Robinson. Tampa. And he was like, it's not him, it's us. We're not doing a good enough job for him. Guys loved him as a coach, which makes me wonder, like, what the disconnect was, and maybe it does come back to he can pump them up and change the culture and have everyone be team first, which they were, and love each other and love their coach, but not be developing as players enough.
And that seemed to be the message inside the locker room this morning.
Yeah, no, definitely. I really do think that this group of guys really love JG, and we were able to talk to them as they were clearing out their lockers, and this is what they had to say. And do you think JG's the guy for this job?
Yeah, no, I have wholehearted trust in Coach Gannon, and that's above my pay grade, so I'm not worried about that stuff. But I trust him. I really enjoy being a part of his team, and I love the way he coaches. So
he's always holding everyone accountable. He's always doing the right things. It's just the players, and that's why I say we as players and myself take accountability for this and just learn and keep going.
I believe in JG. I love the man he is as a coach and as a leader, and I believe he brings the most out of the guys here. Again, I feel like the reason why guys will continue to fight to make plays, whether it's late in the game or down, is because we have a guy like him that's for the players, he's for the team, and he's never hanging his head. He's not complaining. He's trying to scratch and claw to get a win, to pull the most out the guys, which I know we all appreciate from him.
How about JG? You think he deserves more time to get this right?
Yeah, absolutely. JG's a wonderful coach and does everything, gets us prepared the right way, and I think he deserves obviously a chance. I loved him as a head coach, so yeah.
I mean, yeah, you could hear it and you could feel that this team did not quit playing for Jonathan Gannon. And it's a sad day, a sad loss for them losing their coach. My question is, if they don't lose James Conner for the season in San Francisco, are we out here having this discussion right now?
That
Yes.
was the beginning of the avalanche, though. When James Conner went down, it was just one injury after another, but that was one of the biggest one of the season.
But they didn't run the ball well before he got hurt. The offensive line took such a massive – that was like the biggest surprise to me of this season was how poor the offensive line play was, and that was from game one in New Orleans. So I as wonderful as of a leader as James Conner is and as hard as he runs the football, and maybe your leading rusher doesn't finish with like 300 yards on the ground this season if he stays healthy, I don't think that it changes much.
But it opens up so much when you have a run game, though. Like, even just like a few more yards here or there, like, I don't know. You never know, but...
Well, and it's stunning how much it did change, because the first two games, even though they won them, you're thinking Conner just can't get loose. Yeah. So do you address the offensive line first in the NFL draft? Or do you go quarterback with the number three overall pick?
I go an offensive lineman. Yeah, I think you build in the trenches. I think that is the recipe to success in the NFL.
I agree. And I think the Cardinals have picked number one overall picks quarterbacks, and it hasn't really worked out for them. So I feel like you really do need to build that O-line and just protect your QB.
Unless Trinidad Chambliss comes out.
Your guy.
That dude was awesome against
I agree.
Georgia.
I agree. He's a magic man. Okay, so we can...
Because the two teams ahead of them,
yeah,
the Raiders and
New York
and the Jets,
yeah,
they're both probably going to draft quarterbacks.
Yeah, so we can have this discussion after watching on Thursday night in the Fiesta Bowl. But are you doing Chambliss, Carson Beck, Fernando Mendoza?
Oh God, no. Well, I think
Yeah.
I mean,
Dante Moore?
listen, I don't know. I'm
Wait
not
for Arch?
I'm not a big mocker either, so I don't know. But I feel like it seems likely that it's Mendoza and Moore that are going 1-2, and then it feels like a step back because Chambliss is trying to get another year in college.
But if he's a number 3 overall pick, I would think that he would want to start the clock right now.
Yeah, which I'm probably reaching there. Griffin, our Ole Miss alum, tells me that after the Sugar Bowl, Todd McShay said he had him at a second-round grade, had Chambliss there.
Did he only watch the third quarter? That was incredible. And beating Georgia is no small feat. I mean, and granted, we're talking about them destroying my Longhorns like 9 straight times, but that was the most impressive win I've seen this year in college football.
Me too, but also, I guess, to be fair, he's a little bit more in the Kyler Murray mold. He's a little bit taller than Kyler, but I think he's only 6'6'1". So do you want a guy who's 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", that plays a little bit more like Jacoby Brissett, because that is what everyone started to enjoy, seeing that style of quarterbacking.
Well, and you see like Tua struggling in Miami, Bryce Young figuring it out this year in Carolina, who the Cardinals beat, by the way. That looks like, do we ever believe our eyes again in September in the NFL? And just
Panthers still stink.
But seeing the way that the Panthers were able to turn it around and go to the playoffs is nothing sort of stunning.
Yes, but with an 8-9 record. That division's a travesty.
When the Cardinals went to the Super Bowl, it was a very similar situation. So you got to get hot at the right time.
No doubt.
So you're not drafting quarterback. You're drafting offensive line?
Yeah. O-line for sure.
Okay, so Monty Ossenfort was asked late in his news conference and kind of had to defend his strategy in roster construction a little bit about how this team is put together and how ready it is to win immediately.
What are we talking? Are we talking PFF grades? Like, I know everybody likes to live and die on those, and I get that. But
3-14, and
I get that, and that's accurate. Like, with the wins have not been there. But I would say that the number of young players that we've had that are contributing, the number of players that are on rookie contracts, the guys that have impacted the game and are getting opportunities, are going to get more opportunities at premium positions. We have a young core group of players that we didn't have 3 years ago, and we have guys that are made of the right things and are going to have more opportunities moving forward. I know that there's always going to be, how come this guy hasn't made the Pro Bowl? And I understand that, but the bottom line is we have to win more games, and so we're going to continue to do that. We're going to continue to develop our young players. We're going to, unfortunately, or I guess fortunately, however you look at it, we're going to have another opportunity to add players with a high draft pick this year. We'll pick at the top of each round. And so we're going to continue to add to this roster and continue to put the right type of people on this team. And we're going to continue that process with finding a head coach to put us in a good position for 2026.
One other thing that Monty Ossenfort said in the news conference, it's not going to be a quick process because there are coaches currently coaching in the playoffs, which made me think that it will be an NFL head coach. So I might, if I was him,
he got in
San
trouble
Francisco.
last time too.
That's right. You don't have to give up a draft pick. So he will take his time. I forgot about that. So and he self-reported. That was kind of how this thing started. And you thought at some point it was going to take off, and it just didn't. But I might raid San Francisco, go see if Robert Saleh wants to be a head coach again, the defensive coordinator for the 49ers. And then as we were taping this, I don't know if Mike McDaniel still has his job with the Miami Dolphins, but I would consider reuniting them because they were together in San Francisco because they know everything about the Niners. Thoughts?
So who would be head coach then in that scenario?
I put Saleh.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think it really matters. You have a head coach of the defense, head coach of the offense.
Saleh's one of the first names that I thought of. Now, that Niners defense hasn't been great down the stretch here, but they haven't had Fred Warner and whichever Bosa, I always forget. I guess it's Nick in San Francisco, right? Mm-hmm. But I liked Robert Saleh a lot, even when he was in New York, and that's obviously such a dysfunctional organization. I'd be curious to see, it could be just rumblings, but fans in Baltimore and Pittsburgh are, what's the word?
Unhappy. They're tired of their great coach.
Yeah, exactly.
You're thinking of Harbaugh? Yeah. John Harbaugh.
Yeah. The Ravens fans are not happy. I mean, it's been almost 2 decades that he's been there, and almost nothing but greatness. Like, I'm just saying, if one of those two guys, if Mike Tomlin or John Harbaugh become available, that's where I'm going immediately.
So you're going for, like, the home
And I'm not sure that either one of them will.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And then you got to talk about even Kevin Stefanski, who got let go by the Cleveland Browns. He went 6 seasons there, 44-56.
Another dysfunctional organization.
Yeah, but for him to have that decent of a record with that,
Totally.
he's able to get some wins, no matter who he's given, what type of talent.
Well, and then you have Jay Harbaugh, who's on the Seattle staff, Clint Kubiak, also on the Seattle staff, and you have Chris Shula on the LA Rams coaching staff. So just names. Haven't done a whole lot of research on those guys. I do also wonder, do you have a conversation with Ryan Day? You have so many Ohio State Buckeyes on the roster. Ohio State's been eliminated from the college football playoff. Is he tired of all of the NFL? I mean, he's basically coaching a professional team right now in Columbus, Ohio. Does he want to take a whack at being an NFL head coach?
I can't imagine this being the right time for the Cardinals to bring in a first-time NFL coach.
Too much to learn in operation.
And if they feel like they have a roster that's ready now, which is what they are saying, again, Michael Bidwell, 1 year turnaround, not 2 or 3. I think they more than likely go with someone with experience, especially after the last 2 now. Cliff Kingsbury plucked straight from college. Jonathan Gannon was a coordinator but wasn't a previous NFL head coach. I think that probably changes. I think they probably have someone with experience.
Do you think Pete Carroll's coming back, or is he
No.
done? You think
I think he's done.
hanging
So
it
the
up?
Raiders will be looking for a coach. The Browns are looking for a coach.
Falcons.
Falcons are looking for a coach. You probably need to move quicker. I mean, you can't wait around forever. So this is going to be interesting to see who wants this job, really. And if you get to pick your own quarterback, I would think that would be something that would make it a little more enticing.
Totally. I think that Falcons job is pretty interesting. I think that, off the top of my head, it would be the most appealing job that's open right now. But I would rather come to Arizona than go to Cleveland or the Jets or the Raiders, honestly.
What if they just swap? What if Gannon goes to Cleveland because he is a native over there and takes over the
Takes Petting
Browns?
back.
Yeah. He's
That
the
would be
best pass
crazy.
rusher of all time. That'll help.
Yeah, that will. Oh, especially him just being a defensive-minded coach. He would love that, man.
All right, so next couple weeks here, we'll be out here sorting through all the scenarios and heading up to the NFL draft. But as we kind of leave here, just your takeaways, messages from fans that you heard from Michael Bidwell. I mean, he was pressed pretty hard about prices inside the stadium, catering to the wealthier fans. He had answers. He said that, we try to keep it as affordable as possible, and they have to keep pace with the rest of the National Football League. But that, I mean, we were talking about earlier, I've heard from fans who are, giving up their season tickets. So there's a lot of trust to win back here with the fan base. From his message today, do you think this was the first step to win back that trust?
I suppose a baby step, just because the fans were equally as dismayed with the amount of losing. But I think there's a long way to go but you can make giant strides just by winning football games. That's really all it is. Like, the NFL's king. People will come back. They're going to go to games no matter how much it's catered to the fans with more money than your average Joe fan. People will come if a team is winning.
And that's what Paris Johnson said at his locker. Just, he wants this place to be a place that opponents fear to come and play in. But we haven't had that in a very long time. Like, it's kind of like, okay, sometimes you get opponents, visiting team fans over here, outnumbering the Cardinals fans, which is never fun for the players or coaches or anybody like that. But I do think that, I hope that this is in the right direction. I don't know. I personally probably would have kept Gannon for 1 more year, and I know I'm in the minority when I say that, but I would have loved to see him with a healthier roster and see what he could have actually put together.
Well, you see the San Francisco 49ers lost 2 key members of the defense. They are in the playoffs. Here's to the 3 of us sitting out here this time next year having a conversation about the playoffs. Winning cures everything, and that is the message today as the Arizona Cardinals move on from head coach Jonathan Gannon after 3 years. So this has been the Group Chat. Join us every night right here on Arizona's Family during the week at 10:35 for the Extra Point. More coverage of the Cardinals heading into the offseason right here on Arizona's Family.
This is The Extra Point, an Arizona's Family Originals podcast, sponsored by your Phoenix Suns.